Oh my god. Hello again. We are going to be talking about the Ultimatum Season 3, Episodes 3 through 5, which were very interesting. I want to say a lot of things, but I'm just going to go through the notes that I wrote down. We're going to be discussing everything that stood out to me. I like to talk through the standout moments as opposed to summarizing the whole entire show, because I believe that we watched the same exact thing. So the only thing that's different is just that I'm good to be sharing the things that I wanted to comment on. And then also, speaking of comments, I have questions for the comments specifically. So, there are a lot of things in my head that reminded me of what everybody deals with in relationships, so I wanted to bring it up, and then also the things that were unique to the show that I wanted to talk about as well. So before I even get into it, I have questions that I hope somebody will let me know feedback on. So, first question, is this the most embarrassing season, and is this the worst season? Because in my opinion, I think this is the worst season so far. Not to say it's not entertaining. I am still entertained. I'm not bored. But I kind of feel like this season is, if I went on this show, I'd be trying my hardest to never acknowledge the fact that this came out. So let me know if you feel that same way. Do we have any sympathy for Nick? I am struggling a little bit. I don't know how anybody else feels. I have no idea, but I feel like it could go, people are sympathizing with him and see his emotion, or some people are going to be like, he's manipulative and harassing her and ugh. And then, do ultimatums work? I wanted to ask this the first time and I completely forgot, but let me know how you guys feel about ultimatums in this show in general. And then one I just saw that kind of I'll think about it later, but I have questions that I'm gonna ask throughout this also, but those are kind of the initial questions that I wanted to see how everybody was feeling about. Okay, so we start off with episode 3. By the way, if you like this video at any moment, if you agree with anything I had to say, if you had some sort of thoughts and opinions you wanted to share, please give me a like or a comment or subscribe. It really, really shows and tells the algorithm that my channel is worth viewing at all, that it has any sort of value. So if you could at all, I would really appreciate it. Thanks. But now, okay, let's actually legitimately get into it. I know it's annoying when people are like now let's get into it. It's like, why couldn't you just get into it? Because people have to see this video, and people aren't seeing these videos. Anyway, so surprise, surprise, the cliffhanger ends off on JR being like, I don't know, should it be Sandy or should it be what's her name, Aria? And I feel like we all knew it was going to be Sandy, because they have this incredible sexual tension and it's going to be toxic. It's not a real connection, so of course it was going to be the obvious choice. So whenever JR chooses Sandy, Nick is screaming, crying, throwing up at this because he cannot handle it. And there is something very interesting about his specific feeling towards JR about choosing Sandy. I think it's just because Sandy is most attracted to him. Maybe Sandy really let him know or something. I don't know. So then essentially Aria and Caleb are just kind of stuck together. They're not necessarily, they didn't want really to be with each other, which is fascinating based on what we know about the later episodes. I should have said this at the beginning, but I'm going to be talking about the events as they happen, but since I watched 3 through 5, something might slip. Spoilers are going to be included. I don't know if that was obvious or not, but I'm talking about the whole entire show. But I'm going to try my hardest not to spoil episodes 5 when I'm talking about episodes 3, you know what I mean? So, I'm also looking at my notes if you catch me looking too much. Okay. The trial mayor, okay, so, Nick chooses Vanessa because they're both homeschooled and dealing with the fact that they're awkward adults in adulthood. Okay, the trial marriages begin. Oh my god, let's get to the tea. That's the most exciting part of this whole entire thing, is seeing how people meld. So I was most excited to see Nick and Vanessa connect, because I feel like ultimately, as an audience member, I want to see who's going to be most at risk for breaking up, and then to see a new couple form. For Ultimatum Queer Love, it was, what the heck were their names? Yoli and, is it Xander, dude? And then nothing happened with them. and that was dumb. But I'm looking to like replace that, and you know what I mean? I need to stop asking if you know what I mean. If you get it, or you don't. Then we have JR and Sandy getting sexual immediately the minute that they walk through the door. JR is like, what are these handcuffs? Look at that. Oh my God. And you're like, come on. But of course they get sexual immediately. Like, that's their whole thing. So then we have Sandy telling JR, just be you. Which is, like, weird. After, because then a couple, like, minutes later, she asks, have you ever dated a white girl before? Those questions, I don't know. As somebody in an interrelationship, as somebody in an interracial relationship, like, I think these questions are normal questions that people ask whenever they haven't been with somebody outside of their race. But sometimes I feel like the emphasis put on, oh my God, look how different we are. Oh my God, you've never been with a white girl before. Always feels a little like performancy and a little like fetishy, but at the same time, it's normal. It's like a normal thing to question. But it just weirds me out because it almost feels like we're not a normal couple. We're an interracial couple. So we're like interracial as well. We get interracial up here, you know? So, then we have Dave and Chanel. God, Dave and Chanel are not supposed to be entertaining each other, not supposed to be in the same vicinity. They're not. Like, Chanel is so incredibly beautiful, and he's just Dave. You know how Ken is just that? He's just Dave. Like, it weirds me out that they chose each other because they have zero chemistry. So everyone is pretty much vibing except for the awkwardness of Micah and Mariah. So uncomfortable. But I have a feeling that Micah's one of those guys where it's like, you try to pull anything out of him, and he just unless he really is interested, you're not getting anything from him, which I like hate. So cringe. I also want her to be with somebody, because she's so beautiful, so mature. She's above this show. So the fact she's getting this treatment on the show, it's so disappointing. Oh my God. Okay, so then we go over to Aria and Caleb. Since I'm going by the notes that I wrote down, it's like really interesting how different my opinion might be. But I mentioned that with Aria and Caleb, there's something uncomfy about how when she starts crying about this whole thing, that he seems like he's gonna come up and give her like a hug, but he literally just comes up and is like, hold on, I'm gonna like this, like, I'll scoot right past you type thing, and then just goes to the bathroom and gets her toilet paper. I get it, they might not have tissues, but it just kind of like, it felt cold, but it's just like funny to see. So Aria and Caleb are the most unlikely couple because they're not supposed to, like, they didn't choose each other. We'll get more into my thoughts later. Zaina and Scotty, ever since Scotty got mad at Aria, I've had a bad taste in my mouth about him, just because I kind of feel like if you are comfortable yelling at your partner in public, like the way that he did, and I understand where he was coming from with those feelings, but I was also kind of like, ew, that's weird. So and my feelings about him have been kind of confirmed with some of the things that have come out in the later episode that I'm going to cover, but I just have a bad feeling about him. And yeah, but the thing is, like, I want to be excited about their connection. Like, Zaina and Scotty, the fact that she's looking for stability and the fact that he claims to be stable, to me, is more exciting than, like, watching a train wreck. Like, it's exciting to look at potential, but things just go downhill a little bit. But it takes a while to go down, which is what always happens. It takes a while for things to go downhill. It doesn't start off horribly immediately. So we have Sandy asking JR what his initials stand for, which is like, I never even thought about, like, I never think about asking people, like, what are you go by JC, what does that stand for? But I think it's really interesting that she asked. And he's like, oh, John, is it like Robert? And then she's being stupid. Like, you know, like when you're flirting with a guy and you're just like being stupid on purpose, and she's like, is it John, like JWN? Because black people have, like, the funniest names. I just wanted to know. It was, like, John doing N. And he's like, it's not JWN. Imagine if he said something like, it's Jaculius Rodulius. I feel like she was expecting something stupid like that. I don't know. Can you imagine? He's like, it's actually Jaculius Rodulius. I don't know. And her real name is Sandra, which is like, where did you get Sandy from Sandra? It's like when people who are named William are nicknamed Bill. Girl, where did the B come from? You're not Billiam, you're William. So, since revealing that, I've decided that I will not be referring to Sandra as Sandy. That's Sandy, okay? Sandy from now on. I don't know if that's mean to do. It is what it is. Like, this channel is casual, and I just like to talk about the things I like to talk about. And that brings me joy to call her Sandy. So we see night cam footage of Micah and Chanel sneaking around to meet up, and we see them the next morning meeting up at like 8, or she comes back in at 8. So do they spend the night together somewhere? Or like, what the heck is going on? So then Micah apologizes to Dave and is like, sorry about last night. And he is like, hey, whatever. Nick is bummed out about finding out that Miss Sandra, Sandy and JR kissed. Girl, you are going to be so mad when you see the show. You're going to. He's crashing out now at what she's telling him. He's going to, like, die when he sees this show and how much sexual tension they have. It's insane. Like, so, sorry, I got lost in my thing. And he said that she said they were just kissing. We've been seeing a lot of inappropriate little touches. We've been seeing a lot of things that have indicated that's been a little more than kissing. Kissing? Are we in middle school kissing? And he's, like, really torn up about it, because I feel like maybe he even knows. It's not just, you don't just kiss somebody when you're an adult, right? I don't know. So, like, it would be a shock if it was just kissing. Please. We see the couple just having normal, like, living moments in their little apartments. We see Sandy telling the audience that Nick is very sensitive and emotional, and that he's kind of crashing out over this. And Nick is the definition of around and find out. Like, he really did around and now he found out. And that's why this show is so dangerous. Like, don't come on this show thinking, oh, if I just show my partner other people, they'll be crawling back to me and it'll be like, girl, what? If you have jealousy issues of any kind, this is not for, I feel like this show is for people who are open to open relationships but can't commit to it. So they're just like, let's just do like a little trial open thing. That is like what this show needs to be about, is like people who want to be in an open relationship, and they both have to be on board with that. But we always get these insecure people who but it's good for the show to have the insecurities, right? That sounds evil a little, but oh well, it just is what it is. So we see then she tells JR, Sandy tells JR that he's a little bit uncomfortable, or JR's a little bit, sorry, Sandy's telling JR about Nick crashing out, and JR is just very uncomfortable. He just is kind of like not looking at her, kind of like, oh shit, I have to deal with this guy, your boyfriend, your ex, is what they call them, getting all up in arms about the fact that we're doing the process. Like, oh my god, I feel for JR, because in this moment it's like, if somebody's crashing out and getting harassy, that should not be JR's responsibility to deal with. That should be Kinetic Content's responsibility to deal with. And when you put people in situations where they could be unsafe, that's on Kinetic, right? That's not really on Nick. But we'll talk more about that later as he does more things that are like, what the heck is going on here? So then we find out that there's been a whole fake staged ghosting thing because Micah and Chanel bow out. Sorry, Micah, I have to read the notes, but I wanted to see like what it would be like if I switched it up. It was stupid. So we found out that there's been a whole like fake stage thing because Micah and Chanel bow out. But Dave and Vanessa and Micah and Chanel all secretly met up off camera. What? That should not be I mean, I guess it's a free country that you can like manipulate the system in, whatever. And you know what? The first time I watched this, because I watched these episodes twice, I was like, ew. So they all like conspired and all were like, so in my head I was like, oh, Nick just like came on camera and like acted fake surprised that they left. But no, they didn't say that Nick also was in on it. Nick, I assumed he knew the first time, but then the second time I was like, maybe he is being real in the fact that he didn't know about this. I doubt it, but maybe he is. You know, because like, how could you not? I don't know. So Nick is talking about how being alone is the worst possible outcome for him. Dang, that is actually really tough when you like. But I mean, when you're the ultimatum giver, this is probably best for you as opposed to being the ultimatum receiver leaving. You know, because it's like, then it's like there's no point, you know. Well, actually that's really stupid of me to say because Nick isn't even the ultimatum giver. Shoot, this is really just actually that's the worst possible outcome for him because he wasn't even. Actually, no, he was the girl. He was the ultimatum giver because Sandra wants to play around a little more, and that's why she's leaning into the sexualness of being with what's his name, right? So then Mariah is also alone. Justice for Mariah, who's also an ultimatum giver. So this is actually working out okay. Maybe if they were a little bit more introverted, it'd work out better. But yeah, of all the people who I feel like would be great alone, Mariah is it. Nick, oh sheesh. So then Sandy is giving her opinion, and she's like pissed that Vanessa left Nick because now she's like open to receiving a lot more texts and calls from him and in his free time. If I were Vanessa, I would leave too. If I'd seen like the weird sides of Nick, which were probably very apparent, be like, I'm not being with this guy for a couple days. Even though they have that whole homeschool connection thing. I just want to see why she left, you know? So then Nick and Mariah meet up, which is like, why not just couple up at that point? Nick and Mariah, unless they just are like completely against it, they're both attractive. They're both compatible in some way, right? Did somebody like refuse to meet? Because that's what I think a Netflix. That's what I think that kinetic content would do, is they would just be like, well, y'all want to do? And then maybe somebody said no. That's what I feel. So Dave was, for a minute, I got Dave and Nick confused. I was about to say like, oh, Nick initially wanted to meet up and be with Mariah. It was Dave. So this is bringing up Mariah's abandonment issues. And I completely forgot to mention like that in the first recap, that Mariah has intense abandonment issues specifically because she was abandoned at 8 years old by her mother, completely left. That is significant and horrible. Like, I have abandonment issues because I was adopted, but that's completely different. Like, I have more access to stability. I can't imagine being 8 and then having to go into being a young person, like going into your preteens and teenager, knowing what was done to you and knowing that somebody left you. So she has a lot of trauma that I see, and that's probably why she wants to get married at 24, because it like provides that stability. It's like a structure for you to know that somebody's going to be there. It's like one of the reasons why I got comfortable being married young. You don't get married young if you like don't have codependency issues. Like, if you're like fine with you know, I feel for her so much. So then we see Aria and Caleb meet up at like this bench spot. they're such a good looking couple. And they, to me, are very compatible. My initial thought of, like, the other couples, Chanel and Dave not matching. Who else not matching? Literally, like, whoever the heck else was split up as a couple. I was like, is it because they're interracial and I'm just not wrapping my head around it? The only reason that I said that last time was just because, like, a lot of people don't view interracial couples as compatible because they don't see normalized interracial couples, so they think like, oh, that's weird, that's not normal, so they don't match, so they don't, like, yeah, they don't match, they don't fit. No, I genuinely feel like Arya and Caleb in another life would be a good couple. I don't think for this moment they are, because I think that Mariah and Caleb are gonna end up together. Like, they're gonna end up together, they're gonna get engaged, I'm pretty sure. But I like what they pull out of each other, because Caleb in this moment is genuinely interested in her background and, like, asking her questions. The, like, so when did your parents split up? And then that leads into her opening up about the fact that her parents split up when she was a college freshman, and when they were doing FAFSA, her mom was like, oh yeah, well, by the way, me and your father are separated. Can you imagine? God, I can't even, I crash out. That's wild. Can I stop saying crash? Gen Z slang is so upsetting and annoying. One time they were talking about open relationships, and Caleb's like, oh, I'd never do an open relationship. I don't want to be like Akon. He's a man has like that. If you don't want to be in an open relationship, what is this? What is this? What is this? Like, I know it's not a real open relationship, but they're really playing around with the terms, like, as if, oh, that's your ex, you're not really together. This isn't like you have two girlfriends. Yes, it is, bro. Yeah, it is. Like, no, you're experimenting with somebody else, even though sometimes it doesn't turn romantic. That's like the goal, kind of. You're there, so your trial wife. It's not that far off from a open relationship, so I don't know. He's like, oh, I'd never. You kind of are. So let me see Sandy and JR go out, and they have these little bowling balls. What are those? I want to do that. Can somebody tell my husband that I want to do that? You're like, hey, by the way, Ruth wants to do that. I don't even know what those are, but those are cute. And also, I noticed Sandy really likes JR. She, like, is very much into him. I think it's just purely physical, purely objectification. Because they really don't I don't see them talking very openly in a connecting way about themselves and building on that. But I also think she just really doesn't want to go back to Nick, because he's, I'm gonna get into it later, but he's really just uncomfortable to see. So then also watching this episode the second time around, I noticed how insecure Scotty is. Which, by the way, yeah, I haven't talked about Scotty that much, but I'll bring him up at a later point. When Scotty and Zaina are talking, most of his questions that are asked to Zaina are kind of to reassure him about himself, and it's a little odd to see. We really see this pop out later, at that specific moment that's, like, uncomfortable, when they were just talking about the cryotherapy, but it's becoming more visible as, like, you just see through the conversations. So then we see that Arya and Caleb are kind of just chilling with each other. They're talking on the couch, and they're being so incredibly mature, like, speaking with the most emotional clarity, being very open and communicative. I think that although Caleb's gonna propose, this is, like, what you want out of this experiment, right? Arya seeing Caleb seeing Arya, them talking through their relationship problems with each other. Yeah. So then we see that Mariah is cooking alone, which is so sad. I thrive alone, but when you're, like, supposed to go on this show and to be with somebody, that feels just extra, like, ugh, man. Like, does she talk to the crew? Does she talk to the crew while she's cooking? Like, hey, guys, like, how's your day going? That's what I would have to do. Just fill in the silence. Because, like, somebody just, like, filming you doing the things that you do. Like, being with people, but, like, being perceived to be alone. I don't know. That's something about that just strikes me as really sad. And we get her reflective thoughts, but I just want to know, like, behind the scenes, how does that work with them? You know? Okay. So then we have Sandy and JR cook together, and Sandy says, "This life is magical." Yeah. And that's why this experiment works and has such high entertainment value. It's because it shows the best, easiest parts of one relationship, like something that makes you excited at the beginning of a relationship, but then takes you back to the most contentious, conflicting part of the relationship that you're currently in that you're not sure of. This show, dude. So then we see Nick is painting alone. So angsty, so emotion-filled. Such an artist. Such an artiste. Next we have Zaina and Scotty playing basketball. They kind of spice things up and ask questions. Scotty is asked by Zaina, if you could go back in time and change one thing, what would you change? He says something that's really that's really hard. He says that he wished he could tell his dad he loved him because at the time that his dad died, he was mad at him and never said, "I love you." I can't imagine that at all. Like, that must be so incredibly difficult. We also know that he has issues. Well, we'll talk about his issues later, but I feel like that kind of reveals a little bit of how he behaves as a person. Can you imagine the guilt, like the lifelong guilt you're gonna feel about that? It's also surprising that he even said that, because it was like, oh shoot, oh my god, I didn't know we were gonna get such vulnerability out of you, I don't know. So then we go back to Arya and Caleb. They are so attractive. It's so hard to see two attractive people who claim to be platonic, because we love to see attractive people come together and be a thing, you know? That's just how I feel, and I'm gonna move on from that. I don't have anything else to add. So then we have Sandy and JR again talking by the pool about cheating in relationships. So that moment was kind of gross also, because JR literally will just openly like look at her boobs, just like openly just like look down and then look up. It's like, as a woman, I just feel like a little bit like throwing up every time I see, like, every time you like notice that in person or on screen. It's, I don't know. And I have a feeling that she likes it because she also leans into that with him. But I don't know. So they openly talk about cheating because JR has mentioned that he was cheated on and that's how his marriage ended. Well, is that how his marriage ended, or was it? I think it's his marriage. Correct me if I'm wrong. But then Sandy's also talking about how she got cheated on. I hate to say this, I really do, especially because I hate to tear a black man down. I really do. But JR is just too attractive to me to have claimed that he got cheated on, and that he never cheated himself. You know what I mean? He's just too attractive and too sexual, overtly, to never have it maybe experienced cheating, or to have cheated and lied about it. I don't know. Does anybody else know what I'm saying? And I said this before, this is a bad double standard of me, but whenever an attractive guy admits to cheating, it's not a shock. It's almost like a surprise when you find out that they are completely loyal to one person. Yeah. But also, this whole entire pool scene makes me wonder, how is she with Nick? Is she like this with Nick? Is she as attracted to Nick as she is to JR? I really doubt that. I really do. Also, I really wanted to know, JR should have asked this, but JR should have been have you ever dated anybody black before? Because I have a feeling she was gonna say yes. Because I feel like this is classic. She just acts like she I don't know, there's something about her, dude. So then they're meeting the family. I extra cringe whenever they meet the families, because whose family can be supportive of this process? If I had a friend that went on the show, I would maybe be excited about the fact that I could maybe be on the show, but the fact that I have to watch my friend be like in this process, all around embarrassing, really. So we see the JR's meeting Zaina's friends. Sorry. No, JR is meeting Sandy's friends. JR, Zaina. He says everything they want to. Whoa, dude! I said JR's meeting Zaina's friends, and I flipped it. Sorry. What the heck is it? Scotty. I didn't have to write that down. Scotty is meeting Zaina's friends. He says everything that they want to hear. They like him, but they love JR. It goes exactly how you'd want it to go. You know what I mean? But this is all like fantasy, like fairy tale, whatever. She has some like good non-picky friends, I guess. I wonder like how these conversations go off camera, because on camera I have a feeling we're just seeing the best of everything. So JR meets Sandy's mom and her friends, like the real JR, the one that I like intentionally made a note for JR. Something about the situation feels like Get Out. Something about this feels like he's gonna end up in the sunken place. I don't know if I'm the only one who felt that energy, but the way that they're just like, oh my god, look at you, handsome. Oh my god, Len. And they're all like ogling at him. Not to say that it's bad, like thank goodness they're accepting him and not like giving him a hard time. Like that would have been so much worse. But the way that they're just looking at him and the way that they like love him so instantly kind of feels like, okay, y'all are too open to this process. like put some like flame to the fire. Like, I don't know. Normally on Love is Blind, I hate when they put flame to the fire. I hate when they ask the hard questions. But this is the opportunity to be like, listen, my daughter is in conflict. What the heck is up with you that possessed you, to go on this show? What the heck? So then Nick, again, crashing out, which is understandable, but it's coming off as harassment at this point because he's texting her a lot. And I do feel for him when he is emotional because I'm a human being, I guess. I mean, I'm a human being, but it's hard to feel for him when he is making Sandy's life harder because she does not want to be in communication with him. It just feels unsafe. So whenever he goes up to the apartment, JR is acting like a protective figure because he wants to keep Sandy safe. I feel bad about calling her Sandy in this series. I'll call her Sandy. He wants to keep Sandy safe, but it also feels complicated because it's like you're trying to make this guy's girlfriend feel safe. That's a little bit like hard because it's like that's the person that like he's known for a long time. But at the same time, when you become a danger and you make the girl that you've been with feel unsafe, yeah, somebody else has to step in. This is why strangers step up for random other strangers when they see them in public. Because it's like, yeah, just because you know and love them doesn't mean that you're not a threat to them. Because he's like acting like that. Because she doesn't, like, to me, this was almost a little bit of a harder watch because he was kind of putting them at danger. And he's being a little unhinged. Like, to the fact where, to the point where, Sandy blocked him. Like, are they supposed to even do that? Like, is she gonna block him temporarily? Is she just gonna, like, block him and then at the end of the experiment, are they gonna break up because she feels unsafe? Like, this is so tough. Okay. Speaking of triggered. JR. Sorry, I keep saying JR when I mean to say Scotty, dude. They don't even look similar. They literally don't even look similar. Scotty and Zaina are listing out date ideas. She is sharing her thoughts, saying that she doesn't want to do cryotherapy, even though he mentioned cryotherapy. He said something else that she doesn't want to do. And JR is triggered after she just says, like, hey, I don't want to do that thing. I don't have interest in that thing. It's whatever. JR is triggered and immediately is like, okay, so I guess you don't want to have fun with me. What does 32-year-old fun look like? Just, like, weird to say. That's a weird thing to say. And she's like, what are you? I'm not projecting the idea, I'm not rejecting you, I'm rejecting the idea. That does not sound fun to me. And I feel like we all got that. But after she says that, at least he does admit, like, I have a problem with rejection. Like, I have a problem with him. Like, I feel uncomfortable by him. But I do like that he at least identified the problem and spoke about it. You know, because that was a weird moment that I feel like a lot of women have been in, and maybe for your guy. A lot of people have been in situations, well, I shouldn't have even just said women, because this is probably like a thing that guys do with where, like, you'll be talking about something, somebody gets triggered, they don't let you know that they're triggered, and then they just, like, respond out of being triggered, and they're, like, really aggressive about it, but, like, well, aggressive or passive aggressive, and you're like, what the heck just happened? What happened? We were just what the heck happened? But at least he said I have problems with rejection. And because I feel like it really just is like, oh, so that's the source. Thank you for saying that. So I do commend him for saying that. But then after that conversation, he's like, did you eat without me? Which, I can relate. Like, I don't like to eat alone. But the way that he said it was kind of like, I didn't sign up for a trial wife who would eat without me. It's like, girl. You just admit that your problem with rejection. Please, like, work on your communication, because now you're putting this, I didn't sign up for a trial. Girl, please. Like, was that, like, inherently known that you didn't want to eat alone? That you guys were gonna eat together, or what? So then Nick and Mariah are catching up talking about boxing, or catching up boxing and then talking during boxing. And so the Nick is like, I just wanted to, like, I hate JR. It's like, and Mariah is like, I will validate Mariah and what she's going through, because it seems to be very tough. I feel for both Nick and Mariah, but I feel more for Mariah, because I feel like Mariah's more rational about this and going through, like, actual emotions that make sense. Nick is more so putting issues on himself and then reacting, so it just makes it a little bit harder for me to see his side. Yeah, he's really putting a lot of blame on JR when he really should just be putting blame on the fact that he put himself in that situation. And we'll talk about what's said in, I was gonna say, he talks about how he's working on things. You're not, like, actually working on things if you, like, can identify a problem and then don't address it. And addressing it looks like getting therapy, talking it out with the trusted people, asking your partner, what can I do for you? And then when they give you something to do it, you know? But that is more on the girls' night. So I feel like all of these, like, oh, I paint. It's, like, really interesting that, even, what's her name? Sandra. Why am I calling her Sandra? She doesn't go by Sandra. It's because I'm calling her Sandy a lot. So the natural next step is to go to Sandra. Okay. Arya and Caleb are sitting and talking about the upcoming girls' night, and Arya feels an emotional connection to Caleb. And it's a little bit more than a friendship. They've developed feelings, and we've been seeing it. Like, I feel like we firsthand have been seeing the dates that they've been going on, and I feel something there. But she just wants to be cognizant of the feelings of Mariah, and not to, like, step on toes or to make things awkward. So she wants to, like, be honest, and is like, I want to talk about the fact that we have an emotional connection and not hide things. And Caleb is kind of like, I don't feel like we need to do that. I kind of feel like we're over communicating. I feel like this is too much. Like, I feel like it's gonna hurt her. And Caleb is denying because he wants to protect Mariah, but you're not protecting someone if you're omitting information and things that are valid and real. That's just manipulation. Like, if you're omitting things just to save somebody or just to make somebody feel better, you're manipulating them. You know? Like, no matter how you slice it or dice it, if you're omitting something that they should know, that's manipulating. I'm so sorry if you can hear what the heck is going on upstairs. I'm gonna kill my neighbors. If you can't, thank God, but oh God. So then we see the girls at girls' night talking mainly of Nick's behavior, And Mariah's kind of explaining her side. As if she could, like, tell Sandy, like, anything that she needs, anything new. Even though Sandy's literally been hearing from him 24/7. Like, she knows exactly how she's feeling. Like, what? But it is interesting because I think Mariah started off being like, hey, he's just really hurt. He's going through things. And then straight up, after maybe, like, a couple minutes, she says, I'm going to be honest, I don't think he would be a good husband. I don't think he would be a good husband. Don't marry him. How are we feeling about that? Genuinely, is Nick's behavior, as he has self-proclaimed, his behavior at his self-proclaimed lowest moment, an indicator that he's going to be a bad husband? Or is that, do you have more grace for that? Is somebody a bad husband because you see them at their lowest moment and they're really triggered, even though they, like, really, because they looked around and found out, is that an indicator that he shouldn't be a husband? I personally agree with that, because I kind of feel like he really is making it hard on her and really not developing the things that he needs to develop in himself. But I don't know. It's anybody else. I could see somebody disagreeing, and I would be fine to hear that out because I would like to know. So we see the guys' night. I don't know how long this video is. God, it's probably going to be like, I don't know. You'll see. I'll see. You'll see. You're seeing. We see the guys' night where Nick immediately comes up to JR and is just like, I'm so sorry, man. And it feels like a little pathetic because it feels like you're just, like, immediately coming up being like, I'm so sorry, but you were just talking all this about him. You were talking all this mess, being like, I hate JR. I'm imagining I'm, like, punching him in the face, and then you're like, I'm so sorry, by the way. I'm sorry. That was my bad. Please. I think it's because he's more scared of him than he is sincere. I feel like sometimes people just say sorry and, like, do the performance for somebody, like, expecting that's the way that life is going to be easiest for them. Because he knows if JR tells Sandy that it went bad, then Sandy won't want him back, you know? So then JR brings up, like, I like, look at it from my perspective. You, like, came into our space, which is, like, also interesting because it's also, like, that's his girlfriend. But at the same time, yeah, like, he came into their space and also brought up something so interesting. I didn't even know you knew where we lived. Like, I thought they all lived in the same building. I thought they all were, because weren't they all in the same building at some point in the Ultimatum? Aren't they all in the same building for Love is Blind? I thought. That's really just what it is. I thought. Girl, you really thought. And so it just is really uncomfortable and awkward because Nick is just kind of being like, I'm so sorry. I know that was so messed up of me. It was just, I'm having a hard time. She looks at you the way that she used to look at me. That's so real that it's very respectable for him to say that, at least admit that. You know, to be like, I'm just so insecure because she likes you better than me right now. I just don't like the way the guys talk about these things, because guys will always just, like, puff up their chest and do, like, a measuring contest. And that's just how I felt the whole entire time that these guys were talking. Like, even at a certain point, JR mentioned Zaina, like, in the situation that they're talking about, and it's like, I forgot that he was even with Zaina. It's the first time that he's even mentioned Zaina's name throughout these, like all of these episodes for the most part. That's like, I can't even imagine you with Zaina. Zaina who? How are you guys the original couple when you're so into Sandy right now? It's wild. So then Sandy at the girls' night pulls Zaina aside and is kind of just, they have, like, good rapport with each other. They're kind of like, girl, if I wasn't behind me with you, like, you're so cute, you're so attractive. If I was a lesbian, I'd be with you. You know. And I felt like it was sincere. You know how some people just really just putting it on. You're like, shut up. But no. Then they're asking each other questions. Sandy, maybe she doesn't lie. It feels like she's lying when she's saying, we're not hooking up. Trust me, I'm here to make him better for you. Like, I only want to make him better for you. You're a liar, Sandy. You're a liar, I feel. I don't know if they've hooked up, but the thing is, every single thing they do has sexual chemistry attached. He, like, he like smacked her butt when they were doing the little bowling. They have kissed for sure, and they've confirmed that. They're touching each other all the time. They have like all of this sexual energy. There's no way they just kissed. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? There's something about that feels so fake and so unreal. Maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe because they have so much sexual tension is because they're not allowed to like actually go a step further. But I doubt it. I really doubt it. Especially because it's like, girl, you didn't even need to go into that much detail when you're talking about this. Doth protest too much. Zaina, when this show comes out, I just have a feeling you're really gonna be like, I shouldn't have said that. I didn't need to do all that. So then we go back to the guys' night, and Scotty is asking Caleb about how things are going, and Caleb is out here kind of being a little bit manipulative, and his answer's kind of twisting the words that he's saying. Just being like, we're just friends. We're like, it's a solid friendship. Like, she's my sister, basically. I, in my head, though, kind of do believe that Caleb would maybe feel something deeper and then lie to himself out of it, but then also still see her as platonic, you know? I don't think that they had the chance even for being at risk for, like, breaking up a relationship, but I have a feeling that he's denying his own feelings because he doesn't want to make his girlfriend mad. So he's asking questions. So Scotty's asking questions. And, one of the questions is about something that's, like, a little bit more touchy. I wish I wrote it down because I can't remember now. And Caleb's like, I think that's for you guys to talk about. It's like, okay, maybe it could be for all of us to talk about. We're all in this together. Literally, we're all in this experiment together. So just talk about it with me. And Scotty essentially kind of calls his bluff. And it's like, I don't, like, what are you saying? Like, that's an attractive girl. I believe that everybody who's been in a room with Arya doesn't just want to be her friend. And, like, I feel that very heavily for guys. Guys, being true friends with a guy, like, what? Anyway. So yeah, it's just, like, it's weird. But the way that Scotty goes about things, I think it's weird. So Sandra and Zaina's talk goes better than Mariah and Arya's talk. Okay. Arya lists things that she likes about Caleb and how they start off with the foundation of friendship. Also, I'm going to be looking at my notes a little bit because I want to get this correct. Mariah's like, Arya's talking about the friendship, like how they have built a foundation of friendship. And then Mariah's like, that makes me happy. Makes me so happy. And it just feels like very, like, tense. It did not feel like the way that Sandy and Zaina's talk went. Arya starts talking about how he told them about, like, fighting, and Mariah over communicates, and Caleb does not need that, and now he feels like he's not trusted. Mariah reassures her and is like, I do trust him. He shouldn't feel that way. I trust him so much. But it's like, okay, those feelings don't come out from nowhere, though. Like, it's just weird because it's like, that's also a situation where it's like, doth protest too much. Like, you're saying, oh, I do trust him. He's, like, actively telling another girl that he doesn't. She says that she just has emotional insecurity of not giving him the connection that he needs, and that she's a little self-sabotagey. Arya explained, which is, like, so real. It's so, when you have abandonment issues, you typically self-sabotage to keep yourself safe. It doesn't, like, make immediate sense, but it legitimately does happen. And so I understand what she's saying because she does have a lot of trauma to work through. And they probably should go to couples counseling together. But Arya explains that when you're used to toxic relationships, and you get into a healthy one, sometimes you become the toxic one. Too real. It's like, the way that she said it felt a little bit like Mariah took it as accusatory. And it was a little accusatory. But it was also real. Like, it was real. as somebody, like, me and my husband both have abandonment issues, so we have to catch ourselves being like, well, am I just trying to hurt my own feelings? I think I am. And so sometimes you have to be real with yourself, and I feel like Arya was being real. I saw a TikTok that was like, Arya overstepped. Oh, that was a question I wanted to ask at the beginning. Did Arya overstep? Do you think that Arya overstepped? I don't think so, but the way that she explained it felt a little oversteppy, but I think that it was coming from a real place. It was good. Because I don't think that Arya legitimately wants to be with Caleb and knows that she's not going to be with Caleb. But the way that Mariah took it, it felt a little bit like defensive. Because then Mariah responds saying, I don't identify with that. I've only shown up authentically, and if that's not what he's looking for, it's not what he's looking for. When I don't really love when people are like, oh, well, that's just me. If you don't like it, then you don't like me. Type of a logic. And that might not be what she was saying. However, it felt like a moment when you're telling somebody something that they do that like hurts you or offends you or something that's negative about them. You're like, hey, I would appreciate if you wouldn't do this. And it's like something so easy and tangible that's not inherently who they are. And they're just like, well, that's just me. It's just like, that's just me. You're going to have to deal with it. It's just me. I just who I am. It's like, it isn't. I literally just asked you if you could stop, like, calling me a bitch. You can stop calling me a bitch. Like, that's not just who you are. That's like, you can stop doing that. I don't know. I feel like Mariah, we've seen her as, like, very mature and very responsible and emotionally clear. However, I feel like we're kind of missing the blind spot, and I feel like Arya called that one out. But the way that she did it wasn't necessarily in the package that Mariah needed it. So I kind of feel like we did see a little bit of Mariah's weakness or soft spot. Yeah, soft spot is better. And I feel like it was her kind of being like, well, if he doesn't like me, that might have been a little bit of a cop-out thing. I don't know. So then Arya's talking about really enjoying the experience. I think she, like, genuinely likes Caleb and likes how easygoing he is. As opposed to, like, she's originally with Scotty. I think that Scotty's, like, insecure, probably takes a lot of emotional space to be with. Caleb is probably easier to be around, but not in the way that they, like, think that they're going to be together. I think it's just, I don't know. So, JR and Scotty get into it because Scotty seems like he's trying to tell, JR about, like, the man that, Scotty seems like he's trying to tell JR about the man that Zaina needs. And I just like hate the guys when they talk and they're just like, you just need to be a man, which is like similar energy to what I guess Arya was doing, but it's just different when it comes from a guy's mouth. It just feels like, oh my god, dude. Because they literally just like immediately their egos are hit. Like, so then everybody starts getting upset. And it's weird. And then who threw out, are you sleeping with her? Oh, my neighbors are gonna die. My god. My neighbors are not gonna die. I just want them to. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because I can hear my neighbors. Can you imagine? What if I, like, really loudly was like, I'm sorry, I can just hear my neighbors. Really loud. Dude, I swear. Somebody was asking somebody. Okay. Sandy and who are really physical right now. Sandy and JR are really physical. Nick asked JR about being physical, about sleeping with each other. And he was like, what do you mean, the same bed? I would sleep in the same bed. Shut the hell up. We all know you're not talking about that. Y'all know it. It's just so uncomfortable, dude. It's so uncomfortable. Yeah, so I think that kind of just gives away to JR that, like, they probably are hooking up. Like, also, when people say hooking up, me and my husband have been at odds about this for the beginning of our relationship. When you say hooking up, do you mean sex in, like, just sex, like, overt? Because whenever I say hooking up, I mean, like, anything that could be physical. I mean, like, anything. But whenever, I was just thinking about it because I brought up the word hooking up. Anyway, that's all the things that I have written down for episodes 3 through 5. Please let me know anything that stood out to you about this. Please let me know your favorite couple. Please let me know somebody you see yourself in. Let me know if you feel as though Arya was overstepping. Any of the questions that I asked in the beginning. Do ultimatums work? Do we have empathy for Nick? Is this season the worst season ever? I don't know. Let me know. Okay. Have an amazing morning, afternoon, or night.